The lights dimmed in Lecture Hall Delta 7 as Commander Talon stepped forward to the holographic display. His weathered face looked grim in the blue glow of the projector. 50 cadets sat in neat rows, their uniforms crisp and their attention focused. Most of them were barely 20 years old, fresh faces eager to learn about military tactics and alien warfare. "Today we're going to watch something different," Commander Talon said, his voice carrying across the silent room. "This footage was recovered 3 weeks ago from the ruins of Kepler 442b, the colony that was destroyed in the Kethmore incident." A few cadets shifted in their seats. Everyone knew about the Kethmore incident. It had happened 3 years ago, when the alien race called the Kethmore had attacked the human colony without warning. The attack had been swift and brutal. Over 10,000 colonists had died in less than 6 hours. The military had arrived too late to save anyone. In the third row, Jiho sat quietly between his friend Mira and another cadet named Hana. Jiho was average in every way. Average height, average build, average grades. His dark hair was cut in the standard military style, and his brown eyes rarely drew attention. Most instructors forgot his name. Most cadets barely noticed him. That was how he liked it. "The footage is damaged," Commander Talon continued, "but what it shows is unusual. Watch carefully and tell me what you think." The holographic display flickered to life. The image was grainy and filled with static, but the cadets could make out a burning cityscape. Smoke rose from collapsed buildings. Alien vehicles moved through the streets like metal spiders, their weapons firing red beams of energy. The camera shook as explosions rocked the ground. "This was taken by a security drone," Commander Talon explained. "It was supposed to record the evacuation, but something else happened instead." The view changed as the drone moved over a large plaza in the center of the city. Bodies lay scattered across the concrete. Human bodies. Men, women, children who had been trying to reach the evacuation ships. The cadets watched in silence, their faces pale. Then they saw movement. A single figure emerged from behind an overturned vehicle. It was a human, wearing torn civilian clothes. The person moved with purpose, walking straight toward a group of Kethmore soldiers who were advancing across the plaza. The aliens were twice the size of a normal human, with thick gray skin and 4 arms that ended in razor-sharp claws. "Is that person crazy?" whispered one cadet. "They're going to get killed," said another. But something strange happened. The lone figure didn't run or hide. Instead, they picked up a piece of metal debris from the ground and charged directly at the aliens. What happened next made every cadet in the room lean forward. The human moved like nothing they had ever seen before. When the first Kethmore swung its massive claws, the human ducked under the attack and struck back with the metal piece. The blow was so powerful that it sent the alien flying backward 20 feet. The creature hit the ground and didn't get up. "That's impossible," Hana breathed. "No human is that strong." The other Kethmore soldiers rushed forward, all 6 of them attacking at once. The human warrior moved between them like a dancer, dodging claws and energy blasts with perfect timing. Every movement was precise. Every strike was deadly. One by one, the alien soldiers fell. Jiho's hands gripped the sides of his chair so tightly that his knuckles turned white. His breathing became shallow and quick. Images flashed through his mind. The smell of burning metal, the sound of alien war cries, the weight of improvised weapons in his hands. He blinked hard, trying to push the images away. "Jiho, are you okay?" Mira whispered, noticing his pale face. He nodded quickly but didn't speak. On the screen, more Kethmore soldiers appeared, dozens of them, pouring into the plaza from all directions. The human warrior was surrounded, outnumbered at least 30 to 1. Any sane person would have tried to escape. Any normal person would have been dead already. But this warrior kept fighting. They grabbed weapons from fallen aliens and used them with deadly skill. They turned pieces of rubble into projectiles that could punch through alien armor. When a Kethmore energy cannon nearly hit them, they rolled aside and somehow ended up behind the weapon's operator, striking a killing blow before the alien could turn around. "This is fake," said Kang, a senior cadet known for his combat skills. "It has to be. No human can fight like that." "The footage has been verified," Commander Talon replied. "Every frame has been analyzed. This is real." The battle continued for several more minutes. The lone warrior fought with increasing desperation as more and more aliens arrived, but they never stopped moving, never stopped fighting. Bodies piled. Up around them, all of them, Kethmore. Then the camera angle changed. For just a moment, the drone got a side view of the warrior's face. It was blurry and covered in dirt and blood, but the cadets could see it was a young person, maybe in their early 20s. The face was determined but calm, as if fighting impossible odds was just another day. Jiho's breath caught in his throat. That face looked familiar, but he couldn't place where he had seen it before. The footage ended abruptly as the drone's camera was destroyed by an energy blast. The room fell silent. "What happened to the warrior?" asked Mira. "Unknown," Commander Talon said. "By the time our rescue ships arrived, the plaza was empty except for alien bodies. 97 Kethmore soldiers dead, no sign of the human fighter." "Maybe they escaped," suggested Hana. "Maybe they died and their body was vaporized," said Kang. Commander Talon nodded. "Both are possible. What I want you to think about is this. How did one human defeat nearly 100 trained alien soldiers? The Kethmore are stronger than us, faster than us, and better armed. According to everything we know about warfare, what we just saw should be impossible." The cadets began discussing theories. Enhanced armor that didn't show up on the grainy video, hidden weapons, genetic modifications, luck, desperation giving someone superhuman strength. But Jiho wasn't listening to their theories. He was staring at the blank screen where the warrior's face had appeared. The more he thought about it, the more familiar that face looked. Not familiar like he had seen it somewhere before. Familiar like he saw it every morning in the mirror. "The military wants to find out who this person was," Commander Talon continued. "They want to understand how this was possible, because if we can figure out what made this warrior so effective, we might be able to train others to fight the same way." "What? If they're dead?" asked a cadet from the back row. "Then we study what they did and learn from it," the commander replied. "Heroes don't always survive their heroic acts, but their actions can inspire and teach future generations." Mira noticed that Jiho had gone completely quiet. His face was white and his hands were shaking slightly. "Hey," she whispered, leaning closer. "Are you feeling sick? You look terrible." Jiho turned to look at her. His dark eyes were wide and confused, like someone who had just woken up from a vivid dream. For a moment, he seemed like he was going to say something important. His lips parted and he took a breath. Then, so quietly that only Mira could hear, he whispered 4 words that would change everything. "That's me." Jiho couldn't sleep that night. He lay in his narrow dormitory bed, staring at the ceiling while his roommate Do-hyun snored softly in the bed across from him. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw flashes of the battle footage. But they weren't memories of watching the video in class. They were memories of being there. He remembered the heat from burning buildings on his face. He remembered the weight of alien weapons in his hands. He remembered the sound his improvised metal club made when it connected with Kethmore armor, but that was impossible. According to his academy records, he had never been to Kepler 442b. 3 years ago, when the attack happened, he was supposed to be on Earth finishing his final year of high school. So why did he remember it so clearly? Jiho sat up in bed and rubbed his temples. His head was pounding with a dull ache that had started during Commander Talon's class. He walked quietly to the small bathroom he shared with Do-hyun and splashed cold water on his face. In the mirror, his reflection looked tired and confused. That face in the footage. It really did look like him. The next morning came too soon. Jiho dragged himself to the cafeteria for breakfast, hoping that food and coffee would help clear his head. He found Mira already sitting at their usual table with a tray of eggs and toast. "You look terrible," she said as he sat down with his own tray. "Did you sleep at all?" "Not much," Jiho admitted. He poked at his eggs with his fork but didn't eat them. "Are you still thinking about that footage?" Mira asked. "You were acting really strange yesterday. What did you mean when you said, 'That's me'?" Jiho looked up at her. Mira had been his friend since their first day at the academy 2 years ago. She was smart and observant, with short black hair and kind eyes. If anyone would believe him, it would be her. But how could he explain something he didn't understand himself? "I don't know," he said finally. When I saw that warrior fighting, it felt familiar. Like I had done those moves before. Maybe you have similar fighting techniques, Mira suggested. Sometimes people develop the same strategies independently. Jiho nodded, but he knew it was more than that. The memories felt real, too real to be imagination or dreams. Their conversation was interrupted when Hana joined them. At the table, she was the Academy's top cadet, with perfect grades and perfect scores in every combat simulation. Her long hair was pulled back in a neat ponytail, and her uniform was spotless as always. "I've been thinking about that footage all night," she said without any greeting. "There's something wrong with it?" "What do you mean?" Mira asked. "No human can move that fast or hit that hard," Hana explained. "I've been training in combat sports since I was 6 years old. I know what the human body can and cannot do. What we saw yesterday was impossible." Commander Talon said the footage was verified, Jiho said quietly. "Maybe the footage is real, but the explanation isn't," Hana replied. "Maybe that warrior wasn't completely human. Maybe they had cybernetic enhancements or genetic modifications." The idea made Jiho's stomach twist with unease. He excused himself from the table and headed to his first class of the day, Advanced Combat Training. The training room was large and filled with exercise equipment, practice weapons, and holographic combat simulators. Instructor Park, a former Special Forces soldier, had them start with basic warm-up exercises, push-ups, sit-ups, running laps around the room. Jiho usually struggled with the physical training. He was average at best, often finishing in the middle of the group. But today, something was different. His body felt lighter, more responsive. When Instructor Park called for 50 push-ups, Jiho completed them easily, while other cadets were still struggling with 30. "Good improvement, Jiho," Instructor Park noted with surprise. "Keep up the good work." Next came weapons training with practice swords. The cadets paired off to spar with each other. Jiho was matched with Soman, a third-year cadet who usually beat him within the first minute of every match. But today, when Somin attacked with her wooden sword, Jiho's body moved without thinking. He stepped aside at exactly the right moment, letting her blade pass harmlessly by his shoulder. Then he spun and tapped her back with his own weapon before she could recover her balance. "Lucky shot," Somin said, resetting her stance. She attacked. Again, this time with a series of quick strikes aimed at his head and torso. Jiho blocked each one perfectly, his sword moving in precise arcs that deflected her attacks with minimal effort. Then he counterattacked with a combination that left Soman stumbling backward, her sword flying out of her hands. The other cadets had stopped their own sparring to watch. Even Instructor Park was staring with his mouth slightly open. "How did you do that?" Soman asked, picking up her sword. "You've never fought like that before." Jiho looked at his practice sword in confusion. "I don't know, I just moved." "Again," Instructor Park ordered. "Both of you, reset and go again." This time, Soman was more cautious, but the result was the same. Jiho's movements were fluid and precise, as if his body knew exactly what to do without his mind having to think about it. He defeated Somin 3 more times in a row, each victory coming easier than the last. "That's enough for today," Instructor Park announced. "Jiho, stay after class. I want to talk to you." When the other cadets had left, Instructor Park approached, Jiho with a serious expression. "What's going on with you today? In 2 years, I've never seen you fight like that." "I don't know, sir," Jiho replied honestly. "Everything just felt natural." "Have you been taking extra training somewhere? Private lessons?" "No, sir." Instructor Park studied him for a long moment. "Your technique was perfect. Not good, not improved. Perfect. Those combinations you used against Somin are advanced moves that take years to master. Where did you learn them?" Jiho opened his mouth to say he didn't know, but stopped. Because suddenly, he did know. He had learned them on Kepler 442b during the battle. He had developed them while fighting for his life against aliens who wanted to kill him. But that was impossible. "I need to go to the medical center," Jiho said suddenly. "I think I'm sick." "Instructor." Park frowned but nodded. "If you're not feeling well, that's the right choice." "But Jiho, whatever is happening with your fighting skills, it's not natural. Be careful." The Academy's medical center was in the east wing of the complex. Dr. Yuna, the head psychologist, had a small office there where she counseled cadets who were struggling with the stress of military training. Jiho had never visited her before, but he knew her reputation. She was kind but perceptive, with a talent for helping people understand their own minds. "What brings you here today, Jiho?" Dr. Yuna asked as he sat down in the comfortable chair, across from her desk. She was a middle-aged woman with graying hair and intelligent eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. "I'm having memories that don't make sense," Jiho said. "They feel real, but they can't be real." "Tell me about these memories." Jiho described the battle footage and how familiar it had seemed. He told her about his improved fighting skills and the images that flashed through his mind during combat training. Dr. Yuna listened without interrupting, occasionally making notes on her tablet. "These memories you're having," she said when he finished. "Are they connected to any traumatic events in your past?" "That's the problem," Jiho replied. "According to my records, I've never experienced anything traumatic. I've never been in combat. I've never even left Earth until I came to the academy." Dr. Yuna pulled up his file on her computer and scrolled through it slowly. "Your background? Check shows a normal childhood, good grades in school, no military experience, no travel off-world until 2 years ago." She paused, frowning at the screen. "But there's something odd here." "What?" "Your medical records from before the academy are very basic. Just standard vaccinations and a few minor injuries. No detailed psychological evaluations, no brain scans. Most cadets have comprehensive medical files going back to childhood, but yours is sparse." Jiho felt a chill run down his spine. "What does that mean?" "I'm not sure yet," Dr. Yuna admitted, "but I'd like to run some tests. Brain scans, memory, assessments. If you're comfortable with that." "Will it help me understand what's happening?" "I hope so." That evening, Jiho returned to his dorm room feeling more confused than ever. The brain scans had shown unusual activity in areas associated with suppressed memories. Dr. Yuna had seemed troubled by the results, but hadn't explained what they meant. As he changed into his sleep clothes, Jiho noticed something he had never seen before. On his left shoulder, partially hidden by his undershirt, was a thin scar about 3 inches long. It looked old but surgical, like something a doctor would make during an operation. He stared at the scar in the mirror, trying to remember when he might have gotten it, but he had no memory of any surgery or injury that would have left such a mark. Then he remembered the battle footage. In one brief moment, when the warrior had turned to face a new group of attackers, there had been something visible on their left shoulder. A dark line that could have been a scar. Jiho's hands began to shake as the truth started to dawn on him. The memories weren't false. The fighting skills weren't new. Somehow, impossibly, he really had been that lone warrior on Kepler 442b. But if that was true, then someone had erased his memories and given him a false identity. Someone had hidden the truth about who he really was. The question was, why? Mira couldn't stop thinking about Jiho's strange behavior. For 2 days, she had watched him struggle with something he wouldn't talk about. During meals, he stared at his food without eating. In class, he seemed distant and confused. And yesterday, half the academy had heard about his incredible performance in combat training. She decided to investigate on her own. The academy's archives were located in the basement of the main building. Most cadets never went there. But Mira had spent many hours researching military history for her tactical studies classes. She knew how to access the student records database. Jiho's file appeared on her screen after she entered his academy identification number. Everything looked normal at first. Birth date, hometown on Earth, high school grades, academy entrance, exam scores. But as Mira read more carefully, she noticed something odd. There were no personal details, no emergency contacts listed, no family members mentioned, no medical history beyond basic vaccinations. Most cadet files were filled with information about their backgrounds, but Jiho's file was almost empty. "That's strange," she said to herself. She pulled up her own file for comparison. It contained detailed information about her parents, her 3 younger brothers, her childhood illnesses, even her pet dog from when she was 10 years old. The difference was dramatic. Mira tried searching for more information about Jiho in other databases, but found nothing. It was as if he had appeared out of nowhere 2 years ago when he arrived at the academy. "Finding anything interesting?" Mira jumped, and turned around. Hana was standing behind her, looking at the computer screen with curious eyes. "You scared me," Mira said. "What are you doing down here?" "Same thing you are, I think," Hana replied. "Trying to figure out what's going on with Jiho." Hana pulled up a chair next to Mira. "I've been thinking about his fighting performance yesterday. Those moves he used weren't just good. They were perfect, and they were exactly the same techniques we saw in the battle footage." "What do you mean?" Mira asked. "Watch this," Hana said, pulling up the footage from Commander Talon's class. She played it in slow motion, focusing on specific moments when the warrior used particular fighting techniques. Then she pulled up security footage from the combat training room, showing Jiho's sparring match with Somin. "Look at the footwork," Hana pointed at the screen. "See how the warrior steps to the left while bringing his weapon up? Now look at Jiho doing the exact same thing." Mira watched both videos carefully. The movements were identical, down to the smallest details. "And here," Hana continued, showing another sequence. "This spinning counterattack. The warrior does it at the 17-minute mark of the battle footage. Jiho used the same move against Somin." "That could be a coincidence," Mira said, but her voice was uncertain. "Maybe one move could be a coincidence," Hana agreed. "But not 15 of them. Jiho is fighting exactly like the warrior from Kepler 442b. The two young women stared at each other as the implications sank in. If Jiho really was the warrior, then everything about his background was a lie. But why would someone give him false memories and a fake identity? "We need more information," Mira said. "Something that proves the connection." They spent the next hour searching through military databases, looking for any mention of experimental programs or special operations that might explain what they were seeing. Most of the files were classified, but Hana's high security clearance allowed them to access some restricted documents. That's when they found it. "Project Guardian," Hana read from the screen. "Experimental super soldier program, authorized 3 years ago, terminated after the Kepler 442b incident." The file was heavily redacted, with most of the details blacked out. But they could read enough to understand the basics. The military had been trying to create enhanced human soldiers capable of fighting alien threats more effectively. The project had involved genetic modifications, advanced training, and experimental treatments. "Look at this," Mira said, pointing to a section near the end of the file. "Subject designation, Guardian 1. Status, missing in action, presumed dead." "There's no name," Hana noted. "Just a subject number." But there was a photo. It was blurry and partially corrupted, but it showed a young person in military gear. The face was barely visible, but the build and posture looked familiar. "That could be Jiho," Mira whispered. "Or it could be anyone," Hana replied. But she didn't sound convinced. They printed out what they could and headed back to find Jiho. They found him in the library, sitting alone at a corner table with several books about memory and psychology spread out in front of him. "We need to talk," Mira said quietly, sliding into the seat across from him. Jiho looked up with tired eyes. "If this is about my fighting yesterday, I already told everyone I don't know how I did it." "It's not just about the fighting," Hana said, sitting down as well. "Mira and I have been doing some research." They showed him the printouts from the classified files. Jiho's face went pale as he read about Project Guardian. "You think I'm this Guardian 1 person?" he asked. "The evidence is pretty strong," Mira said gently. "Your fighting techniques are identical to the warrior in the footage. Your background files are almost empty. And now we find out there was a super soldier program that ended right when the Kepler incident happened." Jiho was quiet for a long time, staring at the documents. Finally, he spoke in a voice barely above a whisper. "I've been having more memories, real ones, I think, about the battle on Kepler 442b. He told them about the flashes of memory that came during combat training, the smell of burning buildings, the weight of alien weapons, the feeling of fighting for his life against impossible odds. "There's something else," he said, rolling up his sleeve to show them the scar on his shoulder. "I found this 2 days ago. I have no memory of getting it, but it matches a mark that was visible on the warrior in the footage." Mira reached out and gently touched the scar. It was thin and precise, clearly made by a surgical instrument. "If you really are Guardian 1, Hana said slowly, Then someone erased your memories and gave you a new identity. The question is who and why? Maybe they were trying to protect me, Jiho suggested. If I was part of a classified program, they might have hidden my identity to keep me safe. Or maybe they were covering up something that went wrong, Hana replied. Something they didn't want anyone to know about. Their conversation was interrupted by the sound of footsteps. Commander Talon appeared at their table, his expression serious. Cadets, he said formally, I need to speak with you about the classified documents you've been accessing. Mira and Hana exchanged worried looks. They hadn't realized their computer. Searches were being monitored. Sir, we can explain, Hana began. I'm sure you can, Commander Talon said, but not here. Please come with me to my office, all three of you. They followed the commander through the corridors of the academy to his private office. It was a small room lined with military certificates and photos from various battles. Commander Talon closed the door behind them and activated a privacy screen that would prevent anyone from listening in. I know what you've discovered, he said without preamble, and I know you have questions. But before I answer them, I need you to understand something very important. He turned to look directly at Jiho. 3 years ago, you saved the lives of over 2,000 colonists on Kepler 442b. You held off an entire alien army long enough for evacuation ships to rescue the survivors. You are a hero. But I don't remember any of that, Jiho protested. Because your memories were suppressed, Commander Talon explained. By Dr. Song, the lead scientist of Project Guardian. She did it to protect you. Protect me from what? From the people who would use you as a weapon, the commander replied. And from the truth about what the Guardian process did to your body. Jiho felt a chill of fear. What truth? Commander Talon was quiet for a moment, as if deciding how much to reveal. The genetic modifications that gave you enhanced abilities, they came with a cost. The process accelerated your cellular aging. Dr. Song estimated that you had maybe 5 years to live. The room fell silent. Mira grabbed Jiho's hand, her eyes filling with tears. That was 3 years ago, Jiho said quietly. So I have maybe 2 years left? We don't know for certain, Commander Talon admitted. Dr. Song's research was destroyed in the Kepler incident. But yes, your time is limited. Why are you telling us this now? Hana asked. Because someone else is looking for Guardian 1, the commander replied grimly. Yesterday, I received orders from General Park to identify the warrior in the footage. He wants to restart the Guardian program. Can't you just tell him that Guardian 1 is dead? Mira suggested. I could, Commander Talon said. But there's a problem. 3 days ago, our intelligence service intercepted alien communications. The Kethmore know that their attack on Kepler 442b failed because of a single human warrior. They're planning another attack, this time on the Academy itself. He looked at each of them in turn. They're coming here to finish what they started. And the only person who might be able to stop them is sitting in this room. Jiho stared at the commander in shock. You want me to fight them again? I want to give you a choice, Commander Talon replied. You can continue living quietly, with your suppressed memories, hoping the aliens don't find you. Or you can remember who you really are and help us defend this academy. The academy alarm began screaming at 3 in the morning. Jiho woke instantly, his body moving before his mind fully understood what was happening. The red emergency lights were flashing in his dormitory room, and he could hear running footsteps. In the hallway outside, Do-hyun was sitting up in his bed looking confused and frightened. What's going on? Do-hyun asked, but Jiho was already pulling on his uniform. Emergency drill maybe, Jiho said, but he knew it wasn't true. His enhanced senses could detect something else. The smell of burned metal was drifting through the air conditioning system. Somewhere in the academy, something was on fire. The dormitory door burst open and Mira ran in, still in her sleep clothes but carrying her emergency gear. It's not a drill, she said breathlessly. There are ships in the sky, alien ships. Jiho felt his memories flood back all at once. The suppression that Dr. Song had placed on his mind crumbled like a wall made of sand. Suddenly he remembered everything. The Guardian program, the painful genetic modifications, the battle on Kepler 442b where he had fought alone against an entire alien army. and he remembered Dr. Song. "Where's Commander Talon?" Jiho asked, his voice different now, stronger and more confident. "Command Center," Mira replied. "He told me to find you if anything happened." They ran through the corridors of the academy, passing other cadets who were heading to emergency stations. The building shook as something exploded nearby and dust fell from the ceiling. Through the windows, Jiho could see the dark shapes of Kethmore attack ships hovering over the academy grounds like giant metal vultures. The command center was chaos. Officers were shouting orders while screens showed tactical displays of the alien attack. Commander Talon was standing at the main console, coordinating the academy's defenses. When he saw Jiho enter the room, his expression was grim but relieved. "They found us faster than expected," the commander said. 20 attack ships, at least 500 ground troops. They're jamming our communications so we can't call for help." "What about the academy's weapons?" Hana asked. She had arrived right. Behind them, her uniform perfect despite being woken in the middle of the night. "We have defensive shields and some plasma cannons," Commander Talon replied. "But they're designed to protect against pirates, not a full military assault. We can hold them off for maybe an hour." "How many people are in the academy right now?" Jiho asked. 3,000 cadets and staff, the commander answered. "The evacuation ships can't get through the alien blockade." Jiho closed his eyes and let his enhanced senses expand through the building. He could feel the positions of every person in the academy. Students huddled in dormitories, teachers trying to maintain order, kitchen staff hiding in storage rooms, all of them depending on him to keep them alive. "I need weapons," he said quietly. Commander Talon nodded and led him to an equipment locker. Inside were military-grade energy rifles, plasma grenades, and combat armor. Jiho selected what he needed, with the practiced efficiency of someone who had done this before. "There's something else you should know," the commander said, as Jiho strapped on the armor. "General Park's ship arrived in orbit an hour ago. He's demanding that we turn over Guardian 1 to him." "He can't have me," Jiho replied simply. "These people are my responsibility." The building shook again as alien energy weapons struck the defensive shields. Red warning lights flashed on the tactical display, showing that the shields were already down to 60% strength. "Jiho," Mira said softly, "you don't have to do this alone. We can help." He turned to look at his friends. Mira, who had been kind to him from their first day at the academy. Hana, who had helped uncover the truth about his identity. Do-hyun, who had shared a room with him for 2 years without knowing he was living next to a human weapon. "You can help by keeping everyone else alive," he said. "Get to the lower levels and organize the evacuation procedures. If I fail, you'll need to be ready to get people out of here." "You're not going to fail," Mira said firmly. "You did this before on Kepler 442b. "That was different," Jiho replied. "There, I was fighting to save strangers. Here, I'm fighting to save my family." He headed toward the exit, but stopped when Commander Talon called his name. "Guardian 1, the commander said formally. "Dr. Song left something for you before she died. She said to give it to you only if your memories returned." He handed Jiho a small data chip. "It's a message she recorded. She wanted you to understand why she did what she did." Jiho pocketed the chip without looking at it. There would be time to understand the past later. Right now, he needed to focus on saving the present. The Academy's main plaza was in chaos. Kethmore dropships were landing between the buildings, disgorging squads of alien soldiers. The Academy's defensive weapons were firing, but there were too many targets. For every alien ship they destroyed, 2 more took its place. Jiho emerged from the main building and immediately drew enemy fire. Energy blasts sizzled through the air around him as he moved across the plaza with inhuman speed. His enhanced reflexes allowed him to dodge attacks that would have killed any normal person. The first squad of Kethmore soldiers never saw him coming. He moved between them like a ghost, his energy rifle firing precise shots that dropped each alien before they could react. Their heavy armor was no protection against his enhanced accuracy and superhuman reaction time. More aliens poured out of the dropships. Dozens of them, then hundreds. They spread out across the academy grounds, setting up heavy weapons and preparing to assault the main buildings where the students and staff were hiding. Jiho fought his way toward the largest concentration of enemy forces. His body moved with perfect efficiency, every motion calculated to conserve energy and maximize damage to the enemy. He had learned on Kepler 442b that fighting an army required more than just strength and speed. It required intelligence and strategy. He used the Academy's architecture to his advantage, ducking behind buildings to avoid heavy weapons fire, then emerging to strike at exposed alien positions. He turned their own weapons against them, grabbing Kethmore energy cannons and using them to destroy entire squads with single shots. But there were so many of them. For every alien he killed, 3 more seemed to take their place. His enhanced abilities were incredible, but they weren't unlimited. He could feel the strain building in his genetically modified muscles, and his breathing was becoming labored. That's when he saw something that made his blood run cold. General Park's military shuttle was landing in the Academy's main courtyard, protected by a squad of human soldiers. The general himself emerged from the craft wearing full battle armor and carrying a neural control device. "Guardian 1!" The general's voice boomed across the plaza through external speakers. "By order of the Galactic Defense Force, you are to surrender yourself immediately. Continued resistance will be considered treason." Jiho realized what was happening. General Park wasn't here to help defend the Academy. He was here to capture Guardian 1 while he was weakened from battle. The alien attack was just an opportunity to take control of humanity's most powerful weapon. "Sir," one of Park's soldiers called out, "the alien forces are advancing on the dormitories. Should we assist with the defense?" "Negative," General Park replied coldly. "Our mission is to secure Guardian 1. The cadets are acceptable losses." Jiho felt rage surge through his enhanced nervous system. These people were willing to let 3,000 innocent students die just to capture him and turn him into their personal weapon. He made a decision that would change everything. Instead of continuing to fight the aliens, Jiho turned his weapons on General Park's soldiers. His first shot disabled their shuttle, trapping them on the Academy grounds. His second shot destroyed the neural control device before the general could activate it. "You want a weapon?" Jiho shouted across the courtyard. "I'll show you what a real weapon can do." But now he was fighting on 2 fronts. Kethmore soldiers were closing in from one direction, while General Park's forces were advancing from the other. And somewhere in the buildings behind him, 3,000 people were counting on him to keep them alive. The final battle was about to begin, and Jiho knew that not everyone would survive it. The only question was whether he could choose who lived and who died, or if that choice would be made for him by the enemies surrounding him on all sides. In his pocket, Dr. Song's message chip felt heavy with unspoken truths. But there was no time to listen to the past when the present was burning down around him. Jiho stood in the center of the Academy Plaza, surrounded by enemies on all sides. Kethmore soldiers were advancing from the north and east, their energy weapons charging with deadly purpose. General Park's human forces were moving in from the south, their own weapons trained on him. Behind him, the main Academy building held 3,000 innocent people who were depending on him to survive. The situation was impossible. No one person could fight both armies and protect the civilians at the same time. But Jiho was no longer thinking like a normal person. The Guardian modifications had changed more than just his body. They had changed the way his mind worked, allowing him to see tactical possibilities that others would miss. "Attention all Academy personnel," he said into his communication device, knowing that everyone in the building would hear him. "This is Guardian 1. I need you to trust me and do exactly what I say." In the command center, Commander Talon heard the transmission and immediately opened a channel to all Academy staff. "Do what he says," the commander ordered. "Guardian 1 is in command of this operation." Jiho's plan was desperate, but it was the only chance they had. "All students and non-combat staff," he continued over the communication system, "move to the underground levels immediately. Seal the blast doors behind you. Commander Talon, I need you to overload the Academy's main power generator. That will destroy half the building," Commander Talon replied through his headset. "That's the idea," Jiho said grimly. "Give me exactly 3 minutes, then overload it." General Park's voice echoed across the plaza. "Guardian 1, you have 30 seconds to surrender, or we will open fire." Instead of answering, Jiho sprinted toward the largest group of Kethmore soldiers. His enhanced speed carried him across the courtyard faster than their weapons could track. He dove into the middle of their formation, forcing them to hold their fire to avoid hitting each other. The aliens were strong and well-armed, but they had made the same mistake as their comrades. On Kepler 442b, they thought of him as just another human. They didn't understand that the Guardian process had created something new, something that was both human and more than human. Jiho fought with a precision that bordered on the supernatural. Every movement served multiple purposes. When he ducked, under a Kethmore energy blast, he was also positioning himself to strike at a second alien's weak point. When he rolled to avoid claws, he was picking up dropped weapons that he could use against other enemies. But this time was different from Kepler 442b. This time he wasn't just fighting to survive, he was fighting to buy time for the people he cared about to escape. General Park's soldiers opened fire, but they couldn't get clear shots while Jiho was mixed in with the alien forces. Their energy bolts struck Kethmore soldiers as often as they missed Jiho, turning the plaza into a three-way battle. "Cease fire!" General Park shouted to his troops. "We need him alive!" That gave Jiho the opening he needed. He grabbed a fallen Kethmore energy cannon and turned it on the general's shuttle. The massive weapon fired a beam of superheated plasma that melted through the aircraft's armor like it was made of paper. "Your ride home just got canceled," Jiho called out to the general. More Kethmore dropships were landing around the academy perimeter. Jiho's enhanced senses told him that at least 200 more alien soldiers had just joined the battle. Even with his abilities, he couldn't fight that many enemies while protecting the academy. That's when he heard a familiar voice over his communicator. "Guardian 1, this is Dr. Song. Can you hear me?" Jiho's heart stopped. Dr. Song was supposed to be dead. She had died in the Kepler 442b incident 3 years ago. "I'm not dead," the voice continued, as if reading his thoughts. "I've been hiding, working on a way to reverse the genetic damage that the Guardian process caused to your body." "Where are you?" Jiho asked, while dodging another wave of energy blasts. "Underground laboratory, sublevel 5 of the Academy. I've been here for 6 months, preparing for this day." "You knew they would come for me?" "I knew that someone would eventually figure out who you were," Dr. Song replied. "The question was whether it would be our enemies or our allies who found you first." Jiho heard Commander Talon's voice in the background. 2 minutes until power overload. He needed to end this battle quickly. The Academy's power generator would create a massive explosion when it overloaded, but it would only work if he could get both enemy armies close enough to be caught in the blast. Jiho had an idea that was either brilliant or suicidal. He activated his communication device on a frequency that both the humans and aliens would be able to hear. "This is Guardian 1, he announced. "I'm tired of running and hiding. If you want me, come and get me." Then he did something that shocked everyone watching. He dropped his weapons and walked to the center of the plaza, with his hands raised in surrender. General Park smiled coldly. "Finally showing some sense," he said. "Move in and secure him." The Kethmore commander was suspicious, but he also ordered his soldiers to advance. Both armies began moving toward Jiho, eager to claim their prize. 30 seconds, Commander Talon whispered through the communicator. Jiho stood perfectly still as hundreds of enemies surrounded him. General Park's soldiers formed one circle, while the Kethmore aliens formed another circle outside of them. Everyone wanted to be close enough to grab Guardian 1 when the moment came. 20 seconds. Dr. Song's voice came through his earpiece, so quiet that only he could hear it. "Jiho, I want you to know that I'm proud of what you've become. You were supposed to be a weapon, but you chose to be a guardian instead. 10 seconds. General Park stepped forward, holding neural control shackles. "Guardian 1, by the authority of the Galactic Defense Force, you are under arrest." The Kethmore commander pushed past the human soldiers. "The weapon belongs to us. We will study it and create our own." 5 seconds. Jiho smiled at both of them. "I don't belong to anyone," he said quietly. "I belong to the people I choose to protect." The Academy's power generator exploded. The blast was enormous, turning night into day for several seconds. The explosion vaporized everything within 200 meters of the main building. General Park, his soldiers, and most of the Kethmore army disappeared in a flash of superheated plasma. But Jiho had used those final seconds to do something that only a person with Guardian-level speed and strength could accomplish. He had grabbed the 20 Academy staff members who were still in the plaza and carried them to the reinforced bunker beneath the command center. When the explosion faded and the smoke cleared, the Academy's main building was gone. In its place was a smoking crater. But the underground levels had survived, protected by military-grade blast shields. Jiho emerged from the bunker, his armor scorched and his body pushed beyond its limits. The surviving Kethmore soldiers, who had been far enough from the explosion to survive, were retreating to their ships, no longer interested in fighting a battle they couldn't win. Commander Talon and Dr. Song were waiting for him. The doctor looked older than he remembered, with gray hair and lines around her eyes. But she was definitely alive. How? Jiho asked simply. I faked my death on Kepler 442b, she explained. I knew that if the military thought I was dead, they would leave you alone. I've spent 3 years working on a way to fix what the Guardian process did to your cellular structure. Can you fix it? Dr. Song nodded. The treatment will take several months, but yes, you'll live a normal lifespan. Jiho looked around at the destruction. The academy was gone, but the people were alive. 3,000 students and staff had survived because he had made the choice to be their guardian rather than anyone's weapon. What happens now? He asked. Commander Talon stepped forward. Now you have a choice. You can disappear again, live quietly while Dr. Song treats you, or you can help us rebuild this academy and train the next generation of defenders. Jiho thought about the footage that had started everything. A lone warrior fighting impossible odds. But he had learned something important during this battle. Heroes weren't meant to fight alone. I'll help rebuild, he said. But this time, we train people to fight together. No more lone warriors. 6 months later, the new Galactic Defense Academy opened its doors. It was built on the same site as the old academy, with a memorial plaza dedicated to the cadets who had showed courage during the attack. Instructor Jiho stood in front of his first class of new cadets. His genetic treatments were working, and Dr. Song said he would live a full life. In the front row, his former classmates Mira, Hana, Doyun, and Somin were now his fellow instructors. Today we're going to watch some battle footage, he told the new students. It shows what happens when people fight alone. Then I'm going to teach you something better. I'm going to teach you what happens when people fight together. The new footage showed the battle for the academy. It showed Guardian 1, not as a lone warrior, but as part of a team. It showed ordinary people doing extraordinary things when they work together. At the end of the class, a young cadet raised her hand. Instructor Jiho, how do we know if we can be heroes like that? Jiho smiled. You don't become a hero by being stronger or faster than everyone else. You become a hero by choosing to protect the people who can't protect themselves. And the best part is, you never have to do it alone.